OnePlus Nord is one of the most hyped mid-range phone to be launched by any company period. And now that it's been more than a month of its launch, the long-term reviews are out, and this is one such video which is specifically my take on the OnePlus Nord after using it for a good amount of time. And I'm gonna say it straight, which is the Nord is a good phone for the price it's selling, but unlike its marketing and hype, it's not the best phone for the price. And here I'm gonna divide this video into three portions, which are the factors which live up to the hype, then second are the things that are okay to good for the price, and the last section are the things that doesn't live up to the hype, or it's the stuff that's on the bad side for the price. And if the first thing that live up to the hype or the first great thing is the display. Yes, it's the strongest point of the Nord. The display used here is a 6.44-inch AMOLED 1080p display which has a pixel density of 408 ppi. It has very slim bezels and there is an oval punch cutout for the cameras, and this display is protected by Gorilla Glass 5, and it's also the display that has a 90Hz refresh rate. Now these are great specs, but the reason I did rate the display of the Nord as one of the strongest features is not just after seeing this spec, but it's because of the fact that the spec is done well to an extent. The colors are sharp and also the display does get fairly bright, and even the viewing angles are not bad. I mean, with my unit, at a very angular tilt there is a slight green tint effect, but that's not a thing that we see under normal straight viewing or even at a slight angle. And hence during usage, I totally love the experience. And since the display is sufficiently big, it's a perfect one for media consumption, gaming, etc. And also the fact that the refresh rate is 90Hz makes the whole experience very smooth, and that's a big plus point too. So these are the reasons why I could easily pick the display of the Nord as one of its best feature. And this best feature section again has a couple more stuff, and the second one in that is the battery. And by battery what I mean is the battery backup and also the charging. Earlier, firstly, the battery capacity of this phone is 4115 mAh, and that paired with the processor which is power efficient does give great battery backup. Here I was using this phone with the 90Hz refresh rate on, and even then I was getting a screen on time in the 7 to 7.5 hours range under heavy usage, and it's a sure one day phone for me. And if it's an average use, I could easily get 2 days of battery backup. And here on top of this, the charging speed is exceptional. The charger available is the 30-watt fast charger, and by using that charger and the included cable, charging for 30 minutes did top up approximately 70% of the battery, and under 1 hour, the battery can be fully charged from 0%. And here the best part with the battery is that the phone doesn't get very hot even while fast charging. Now for everyone who loves wireless charging, it's not present, but for me, it's not at all a problem. And now the last best thing for me from this phone is the software. It's a very clean UI which is Oxygen OS based on Android 10, and it's right now the best stock experience you can get. There are just the necessary add-ons, and overall I love the user experience from this. But this is all going to change with the next major update, and hence after that things might be different. But right now I do like the software experience in the Nord. And that actually wraps up the major best features of this phone, and therefore let's check the okay to good stuff, or it's the things that are fine for the price tag. And in that the first thing is the performance. Well, if you're a believer that the Snapdragon 765G is a processor that can stay on par with the 800 series Snapdragon processors, well, that's not what you're gonna get. It's a mid-range processor, and actually it works like that. Things are smooth if it's the regular day-to-day normal stuff like net browsing, social media apps, etc. And with that, there is just some occasional lags, which is not going to be an issue. And with the game loading time, it's on the high side, but then once it's loaded, the gameplay is actually good. There isn't much frame drops, and also the phone doesn't get very warm. And about the RAM management, well, the version I tested is the mid variant, which has 8GB RAM and 128GB storage, and from that, 8 to 10 apps easily stays open in the memory. Well, there are two more variants in which the base variant just has 6GB RAM and 64GB storage, and the top variant has 12GB RAM and 256GB storage. Well, that's the best option you can get, and for sure I'll never recommend the base variant which just has 64GB storage, because there is no expandable storage option available with this phone. Well, here from the middle variant, the performance might deceive us when the phone is new and out of the box for the first time, but actually there is occasional hiccups which to an extent is covered by the smooth refresh rate. And that's the reason I did rate the performance as an okay or maybe a good thing for the price feature and not the best for the price. Getting 5G support is future proofing, but then 5G availability is a big question mark, and same is the thing about how this processor is gonna age. At present it's good, but do keep in mind it's not on par with the flagship processors. And now the second feature that to me falls into this category for the Nord is the design and build quality. The Nord's frame is plastic and the front and back is glass, and yet the back portion does hold up well without any visible scratches, and also the camera portion doesn't protrude out much, and hence it's also holding up well. But the side plastic frame is what makes the Nord feel like a budget phone. To me, it did feel like plastic, and also by the course of time, the side section did pick up scratches. Now, these things do happen with other phones too, and it's not a big deal that the frame is plastic, but what I really didn't like about this phone is the button quality, because it's not up to OnePlus's standards, and that's specifically noticeable with the mute slider and the power button. Both feels flimsy, and given the fact that OnePlus makes excellent quality buttons, it was a bit of a disappointment. But then the only port available, which is the USB-C charging port, has been done right, and I'm happy about that. But here one thing that might be an issue for some users is that there isn't a headphone jack available. But overall about the build quality, when you hold the phone, it's not a flexible cheap phone, but then it's not a premium one too. It's a midway between the two, and hence for the price, it's fine. The Nord is an ergonomic phone because of the curved back glass, and also the best part is that the display glass is not curved. That's a big plus point, and also the Nord is not a very heavy phone too. Then the third thing, which is an okay factor for the pricing with the Nord, is the loudspeaker. It's a single firing speaker setup, and here the speaker does get loud enough, but at max volume, it's not the best quality. So now let's move to the next feature in this category, and that's the in-display fingerprint scanner. It's an optical scanner, and the speed and accuracy of it is pretty good with less errors, and hence I feel it's a good feature offered for the price. And that actually wraps up the okay to good stuff, and the next section is the bad things about the Nord, or the things that are just marketing hype. And in that, the first one is the cameras. Now this is the most ironic portion of the Nord. I mean, OnePlus has marketed this phone's camera as flagship level camera, and that's something which for me felt to be completely wrong. There are 4 cameras in the rear, in which the main sensor is a 48 megapixel Sony sensor, which is the same one that's used in the OnePlus 8. Then there is a 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera with 119 degree field of view, and the third one is a 5 megapixel depth sensor, and the last one is a 2 megapixel macro sensor. And here the good one is basically just the main sensor. With it you can take pretty good shots if light is available, and when it gets dark, then to an extent the shots are fine. But if you need the crispness and decent dynamic range, then you sure need good lighting. Now the ultra wide angle camera, even though different in color profile, it's also usable if there is enough light. But the last two ones, especially the macro camera, is a big blunder, and probably you're not going to use it. And about the videos captured, the max video resolution supported is 4K 30 FPS, and it's also not bad if there is again good lighting. So you might get the point, right? These are not flagship level cameras, and actually these are not the good ones for the price. I mean, I did prefer the Samsung phone cameras in this price range, and if the Pixel 4a launches in this price range, then surely that will be the best camera phone in this segment. And now moving to the front cameras, well, the main sensor is a 32 megapixel one, and I do like the selfies from it. But the ultra wide front camera shots from the 8 megapixel sensor used is pretty soft and kind of washed out. So even though you get that flexibility, it's not a good experience. But overall with the front cameras, well, since the main sensor is good, it's much better compared to the rear cameras. And now to the second thing which falls into the negatives of this phone, well, that's related to software, and it's not the UI, but it's the updates. OnePlus usually is prompt with the updates, but here with the Nord, it's not been like that. And I really doubt how it's going to be once this phone starts to age a bit more, like maybe after 1 year. Well, I guess that's everything for this 3-section format of the OnePlus Nord. But before the verdict, there are some more things to touch, which is the number of SIMs supported is 2, and both must be nano SIMs, then the Bluetooth version used is 5.1, and also all the needed sensors are used here. And lastly, the earpiece of the Nord is also not bad, and hence calls do sound fine. So from all this, what I would like to term the Nord is that it's a balanced phone. It's surely not the greatest in any specific things, but then what OnePlus has done is that they did try to give good experience in majority of the stuff, and to be frank, they did achieve it. But if you're planning to get the Nord thinking that you're gonna get the best camera phone, or maybe the best premium quality phone, or even the best performing phone for the budget, well, if you do so, then you might be very disappointed. And I'll recommend the Nord to users who's basically looking for a phone that offers a good experience in most of the phone things that we do nowadays. And for others like users who want great performance, well, with a slightly higher price tag, there is the OnePlus 70, which is a much better option than the Nord. Or maybe if you want the best camera phone, well, then you have the Pixel 4a, which is coming soon. This is a phone that's going to give a good balanced user experience. And that's it. It's not a OnePlus flagship killer, but instead it's a good mid-range phone from OnePlus. That's all for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, a like is much appreciated, and a sub will be great. See you again in the next one. Till then, bye.